Lords and ladies. I am known as StartNet Dev on Telegram and Twitter, and Distracted Dev on Discord. I had to change my name because StartNet thought I was a scammer. I'm a contributor to Realms World, and also a core contributor to the fully on-chain game Loot Survivor. So briefly on Realms World, Realms is a high-performance network for zero-knowledge, provable on-chain games. It is built upon a permissionless framework where anyone can come along and contribute to open source software, on-chain games, and tooling. Bibliotheca DAO provides a treasury to incentivize the growth of Realms World, and that includes grants, where there is a grant running right now for building on the newly announced Realms L3, which I think closes in 2 days, so check it out. And it encourages game studios to be a part of the entire ecosystem and come along to build on that L3. So I've listed 10 games here, just from the dashboard. Some names to note is Eternum, which is a MMO based on the Realms NFTs. And we've got Zed Conqueror and Rising Reference, who the teams are here today, so I wanted to embarrass them. So Loot Survivor, essentially it was launched in November 2023 on StartNet mainnet. It has had over 5K games and is in the top 20 contracts on StartNet. And there are 3 contracts involved in the setup. So you have the Loot Survivor game contract, you have the collectible beasts, which are given basically on defeating special beasts. And you have the golden tokens, where we did a sale shortly after launch that gave everyone a free game every day. The whole game is based on a single storage slot. So we packed together 251 bits that fits within a single Cairo variable. And Cairo is the language behind StartNet. So that means effectively it's the cheapest possible game to run. So a brief overview of Loot Survivor is a player versus environment dungeon crawler. And the original UI kind of inspired by like 80s computers to show how early we are in the on-chain gaming space. The tasks involved are exploring and finding random discoveries. You will come across beasts that you will fight, and you'll enter like a Pokemon-style battle system. And we've got here Loot Hero, who's also contributed to fighting a berserker, and there are 75 of those beasts. And the whole game is to go through, acquire loot, and basically upgrade your stats, which give you special perks throughout the game. And the whole, basically, purpose of the game is to get the highest XP and get to the top of the leaderboard. I briefly talked about the loot items. So these are mapped to the original Ethereum loot bags. So they incorporate all the item names and attributes. The game has a very high level of difficulty, so you will die a lot, and it kind of coined the term play to die. And that was done on purpose, basically, to create short intervals between games. So an average game will last probably about 5 minutes. And yeah, there's basically, it's not only to play for fun, but there are a range of incentives to maintain the longevity of the game. So yeah, we wanted to create Loot Survivor and base it kind of as like an arcade, which is a tried and tested business model. So essentially you put Lords into the machine, which is a low level, and I think around 17 right now, and the whole market's down, so it's very cheap. It has a dynamic pricing, so the amount of Lords increases and decreases based on the activity of the game. And yeah, essentially from that entry fee, the rewards will split, and so the top 3 will receive a reward. You also have the DAO, which takes a cut, and that will incentivize the maintenance and marketing of Loot Survivor. And then you have client providers, and this is essentially interesting for the topic of today, which is modding, which I'll talk about more. And all incentives are paid immediately on spawn, so there are no funds held within the contracts. So yeah, why did we give a reward to client providers? Really, the incentive there was because we wanted to decentralize the front end as much as the back end and the contracts are decentralized. So we wanted, and the best way to do that is through economic rewards. So we wanted to incentivize a high availability of the UI to basically make sure that as least as possible people don't interact with the contract, because people who are unfamiliar, it's a bad experience. We also wanted to encourage the competition between clients. So we have some of the clients that have been introduced since, and a lot of their focus was to make it fair between the bot and the player. And then finally, yeah, just inherently from everyone trying to attract players to their client, it increases the marketing of the game. So right now, yeah, we have, I think, around 5 clients, including the original. And as you can see, so like a weights client, for example, he is basically predicting the future through the entry system that we have. But essentially, a lot of these have just forked from the original client, but anyone could create from scratch their own and could make it advanced like a 3D, Unity, or Unreal Engine type client. So yeah, a little bit reflecting on what Justin was talking about at the beginning. So we took bot defense quite seriously when we started making these contracts. And so we have an entropy system that incorporates the adventurer data and a global rotating entropy. So there are some UX flags to that. So there is a waiting time before you can actually start. And that's essentially to stop you knowing the entropy before you start the game. So bots have infinite patience, so they could just sit and wait for the entropy to be good before they pay and actually start. We also have idle penalties, which kind of maintain into that. So once you've started a game, you could also just wait until the entropy is good before you make your next move. So we give a 7 to 10 minute grace period, and if you don't make a move between that time, we will just slay your adventurer. And then finally, we've got rate limits, which bots are very, very fast. So we essentially, if there is a favorable entropy, we'll limit the actions taken, and I think it's like 20 actions per 30 seconds or something. So it's a shame I can't show you guys Loot Survivor 2 today, but it's in development, and we're very much building upon the learnings from Loot Survivor, the original. It has been funded through Loot, the Genesis project, and Biblio. So we're really wanting to kind of give back to those communities. And we're integrating loot bags and Genesis Adventurers into Loot Survivor 2 through storage proofs. So we can essentially read the NFTs straight from Ethereum and kind of incorporate it into StarkNet without any bridging. We are looking forward to using Dojo to solve a lot of our problems, because we had some painful experiences creating this from scratch. And that can also advance what we can do and what features we can bring. And then finally, we want to get into actually being able to mod the contracts as well. So we also want to basically get into the realms of micropayments. So we like the idea of incentivizing different groups. We want to just keep building on that. We want to go to top 20 players and basically widen the appeal of trying to get a top score. We want to, so loot and GA owners, if you start a game, they get a discount, essentially if they use their loot bag or the Genesis Adventurer. But also, for people that don't have one, you roll a random bag. And if you roll someone's bag, the person who owns that bag gets paid as a small reward. And then finally, the beasts collectibles that were in Loot Survivor 1, we're carrying those over. And if you get killed by one of these beasts, the person that owns the beast gets a reward as well. So some UX improvements that Dojo brings. I'm probably going to do you a disservice because I'm only mentioning 3. But the component frameworks is amazing how it kind of extrapolates away a lot of the Cairo code, so you can just focus on games. And you can also put it into manageable bite-sized chunks. The native client SDKs are really useful. So essentially, you just write your contracts in Dojo, and then straight away, they have libraries to connect it straight into the client. So that saves a lot of time. There's automatic indexes as well. So this is helpful for the modding side of the client as well, where essentially you write the contracts, and straight away you can use Tori, which is a service on Dojo, and they can run your indexer, and Cartridge will even host it for you. we want to maintain the bot constraints, but also just try and improve the UX because it's slightly clunky. So we're taking a lot of research into that. We want to implement one-click account sharing. So basically this is that I can top up my account with Lords and Gas, and I can send a URL to my normie friend, and he can essentially just click the URL and he's straight in the game and is able to play from there. So yeah, overall, the original Loot Survivor clients are moddable right now, and you can get paid. So we have the repo here, and there's lots of documentation to help you do all of that. Loot Survivor 1.1 is being launched imminently. We found some very, very late game bugs, but we also want to reduce the block wait time to 2 blocks, and we found a way to do that. I just want to take away the positives of client incentives and basically trying to think about how to best decentralize your front end. And yeah, we've got basically LS2 contract mods soon. So if anyone did create a client, you just basically put your client reward address into the contract for the new game function. So yeah, cheers folks.